stories and stuff like that.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, sure. Let me
yeah,
click.
yeah. I'll just yeah.
So,
What did you say?
so I was watching a lot of TikTok videos actually, and it's funny because it's just one of the places that's a lot less censored. So you get a lot of live videos or very recent videos that, don't get taken down for a few days, if not weeks. And you find out what's actually going on in the world as opposed to what they want you to see. And it allows you to make your conclusions before the newspaper even comes out with an explanation. Um, that's one of the things, like,
Yeah,
when you talk with people, it's, you got to kind of gauge, like, well, what are they waiting for? Like, they're waiting for their morning paper to come and tell them what to, experience, what to believe, about the situations that go on. So, a lot of times you just kind of gear your conversation towards who you're talking to. But if you have a few people that, are, I guess, what they call them truthers, who want to get down to like what's actually happening as opposed to what they want you to see, then you share it with them, or that's what I do, and it's helpful. So anyway, that's what I was doing, but that was
nice.
last night. This morning I was basically just cleaning, and then I took a little nap before I give you a phone call. But anyway, is college going well?
Yeah, it is. Honestly, I've been doing well in all my projects, I would say. Majority at least. Yeah,
That's
it's good.
exciting. I mean, I imagine you're in your first year, and sometimes that could be like a difficult transition. So good for you.
I'm in my second year, but first year of my new subject because I changed. I'm doing media now, and it's a 2 year subject, so it's
How
good.
old were you when you started college?
So that was just last year. So I was 16.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, people don't
15,
usually start
16.
college that early here. Is that normal
Yeah.
for Britain?
Yeah, they start after you've done what you call year 11 in secondary. So
Oh,
and after
wow.
that would be either sixth form or college, and then you choose. So you could stay. It depends if your secondary already has a sixth form. So it still kind of is college. It's just not doing it in a college. If that makes sense.
I might have done without my senior year of college, but it was kind of like lazy.
Yeah.
Like, you basically just pick a whole bunch of courses that are relatively easy and, can coast through. I mean, some people took like a lot of AP courses, but like at the end of the day, like a lot of colleges don't even accept them. So it just kind of looks like extra good if you're trying to get into an Ivy League school or something. But anyway, so getting back on topic, um, did you have anything you wanted to talk about specifically? I know in a Telegram you said something about scams and spirituality or something along those
Yeah,
lines.
it was like spells and scams, something like that. Because I said it like that because I was talking about the messages I got on Instagram, for example, of spiritual people saying about spell, and then that was before I knew that when you said about all star seeds have curses anyways, and like so now, yeah, I get it a
Mhm.
bit more. But we were saying, well, what was real and what wasn't couldn't be distinguished so easily. It was kind of yeah, just so I think
Yeah,
it also makes people watching this understand it a bit more as well, if you see what I mean. Because when I'm just saying, oh,
sure.
these messages are just, yeah.
Well,
Um,
let me actually turn it over to you for a minute. What has been the reaction to, because I've seen that you've posted a little bit about curses and dark energy and things that you have spoken to other people online about. What has the reaction been to your fan base or following, or what have they said about it?
um, well, I mean,
You could be general if you
they,
want. You don't have to be specific.
yeah, I mean, I've most of them just find it quite interesting, but most also don't. So most people I've told about it, like even my sister, for example, she says she doesn't really understand it, but then my mum was like, oh, well, that's quite interesting. So like, I mean, and then I kind of told one of my friends about it, but like, I'm sure they, judging by their not response, they didn't really know how to take that in. Uh, I mean, like online, you know what I mean? Because like, yeah, it says like, oh, people viewed your video, but I don't always know who it is. So when you say fan base, it's not really, it doesn't mean I've like get like comments coming in because like you can't even leave comments on videos I make anyways, because if it's made for children, it doesn't do it. But
You have to mark all your videos as made for children.
well, I mean, if I think if you, I don't think I have to, but I think I can't remember what the difference is if you don't do it, but I think it just means if your account is a child account, they can't watch it. That makes sense. Yeah,
Okay.
but yeah, that's why it turns off comments because yeah, it's a bit of a I mean,
All right. So that was a bit of information. Well, it's good. It seems your mom is on board at least in trying to understand that situation. My mom specifically, and again, I'm 33 years old. She would have been all freaked out, or more, she would have been more nervous about it than your mom's reaction.
yeah,
In terms of friends and family and stuff like that, I found that it's best to be a bit particular with it, especially even in a spiritual group, like new people you meet when you tell them about darkness, it tends to spook them out a little bit. Um, but ultimately, the important thing is that darkness is not something that we need to hide from. We don't need to uh, prevent it from seeing the light, so to speak, of who we are. It's not something we have to kind of separate. And this is my opinion. There are a lot of people that are just kind of chasing the light and they don't want to see the darkness. And that kind of builds up to the point where like they can't not face it. And they're also unprepared to deal with it because they've just kind of, it's like cleaning your house. It's always going to get dirty. And if you ignore it and just like stay in the places that are the cleanest, and like you're eventually just going to have a big job ahead of you. So,
yeah,
every time it's a nice day and the garage is right under my bedroom, I'll open up the garage and I'll just sweep it out because like energy is connected, and so it just makes sense anyway. So anyway, when you're dealing with darkness, again, restrict a little bit, who you tell, how much you tell. But the point is that you don't have to be afraid of it. It's scary as hell. Like when I briefly channeled your energy that day, when I did
but
a
yeah,
read for you,
yeah,
I'm not a professional medium or psychic, though I do have those abilities that they use. For whatever reason, it's hard for me to remove myself from someone's energy once I'm in it. So for like the next hour or so, I'm just kind of cleansing. I'm like, okay, I don't want any more readings from Sam's spirit. Please, let me take a shower. Let me just think of other things. That's actually how I got back into TikTok again. I'm like, okay, let me watch a whole bunch of random videos so I don't have to. But anyway, it worked out well because I started learning it was a good news source. Um, but the point is that don't fear your energy. Your energy is yours. We all have stuff to work on. So getting back to other people offering to heal you, because we only have a limited amount of time. I imagine we have about maybe 20, 26, 28 minutes left, maybe a little bit less.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, I could always just, when it stops recording, I could always just press record again. But, well, obviously, but like, I mean, it depends how long this could go on for. I don't know. But, I
All
mean,
right, I'll keep that in mind. There's actually a midnight market tonight, which is like all witchy stuff, and uh, it's supposed to be really fun. All my spiritual friends have said good things about it. Apparently, some special donuts, which I'm probably not going to try, but maybe someone will. Um, it's legal here though, so oh crap, but that's not
oh,
kid friendly. Yeah, see, that's why I'm like, okay, well, I only said special donuts. They don't know. Um, they probably know. Anyway, moving on. The question you ask anyway about darkness, it's not for kids anyway, so use your own discretion. But so prefacing the situation, you've had people on Instagram messaging you, telling you things about yourself, as I have done as well, except that was more by request than anything else. And you
yeah,
were surprised that they were accurate, and you believed that they were legitimate because of it, more or less, and you
yeah.
wanted to do a reading with them. Money was an issue, so as of yet, you haven't done so, as far as I know.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I mean, some people have sent like, even on Telegram as well, like massive paragraphs. Like technically I have got readings before because it was interesting because the first time this ever happened, there was a reading and they said about this spell or something, and I'd never heard about any of this. So I was like, okay, well, that's quite interesting. But then I messaged them after that saying, are you legitimate? And they messaged back saying no. So I deleted that. But then, as I've told you, loads of other people
I would be
have
more
said,
prone to listen to that person, honestly, but
yeah,
okay.
loads of other people have also said the same thing about the spell. So like, it's, and then even when I told one of them that loads of other people said that, they were like, yes, they have. So I don't, so I'm just, I feel more towards it's true just because of how many people have said of sound more true than the one that said they're not legitimate. So it's just, I don't know what, I don't know. That's a bit confusing, but you know what I mean? It's like, they're like, oh, you know, I'll go to the market to get material to, because this needs to be done as soon as possible, whatever. And then I'm thinking, well, I mean, it feels that way to me now, and it's like, you know what I'm saying? So yeah,
Yeah, I had
it's
one of those people who just kept insisting they wanted to give me a reading, like, insisting that I had to pay before, insisting. And then like a few days later, like he's like, "Oh, well, I've got the materials so I could do your reading now." And I was like, "Okay." All of a sudden, it's just like he really wants to do that
yeah,
reading. But again, everybody's trying to make money. And unfortunately or fortunately, a lot of these people that message you first, that's actually, especially on Instagram, that it's another name for it is Insta scam. Like most of the stuff on Instagram is a scam.
yeah.
Um,
Sometimes the message just types like in a second. I'm like, well, it can't have been typed. It must have been like sends automatically. You know what I mean? Like I just,
mhm.
like even just pressing accept the friend request, suddenly I've got a message. It's like a paragraph. So it doesn't really. It obviously just sends it on its
Yeah.
own. Yeah.
And then there's for people that the system doesn't like me, who anybody who's actually important to either my spiritual growth or I'm important to theirs, they restrict the messages that come in. It'll show that I have a new message on my notifications, but I can't access it on the app. I have to go to the website and then I have to go to messages and then I have to find you, and it gets really annoying. So that's like another indicator that they just throw into
Yeah.
it. There are a lot of dark force manipulators on that website, and they will advertise to give you a following, they will advertise to give you a reading. There are so many accounts that are just like copies of other people's accounts that actually end up getting more followings than like you or I have, just by
That's it.
virtue of them pretending that there's someone else and doing readings for them for long enough that they gain a big following. um
Yeah. It's like the account that you messaged me this morning that did a post, Starseed777 or something. There's also loads of other accounts that just have like an extra seven. So I don't know if that's they just made loads of accounts or it's not, is it might be a copy account, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I get a bit
yeah,
confused. And I'm just like, well, this message just sent. So yeah.
at the end of the day, you count the followers, or you don't have to count, you just look at them, because as
Yeah.
astronomical as some of these people do, like 10,000 or 20,000, you just find the one with the most amount of followers, and that's usually the legitimate one. Or you could go to their link tree and look at all the links and make sure that, they're connected to the same account. But getting back to your specific people that are messaging you for readings, especially the ones that are that when they describe the process, I don't know if you mentioned they describe animal sacrifice. Was that part of it?
Yeah, but they said sometimes they say sacrifice ancestors. They're like, oh, the sacrifice has to be done as soon as possible. But one of them did send me a picture of them, or like had like the skin of animals and stuff, saying they're doing things as well. So it's like, and they're wearing like this kind of like different clothing. I think I don't actually know where the photo is, but like it was, yeah, it definitely seemed like they were a kind of group that does their own thing. You know what I mean? So it's yeah, um,
You can't be vague in these instances. If they were doing animal sacrifice, is that correct to say that at least some of them were doing that?
well, yeah, some of them were doing that because I got a picture sent to me of it. Yeah.
So we get into like a bit of the vegan vegetarian dilemma. Actually, no, it's more than that. It's basically meat eaters, vegetarian. Basically, there are levels of spirituality and there are levels of how much we try to care for our environment and the life around us. And it gets down to, are you willing to kill an animal for your personal gain? Are you willing? And if you are, that's fine. It's just a stage of consciousness. It's also a health concern as well. Um, but when it gets to spiritual practice, not only are they killing an animal, they are transferring any dark energy that you have to deal with, oftentimes into that animal. So not only are we collectively, like if you go along with this process, sacrificing the life of an animal not to sustain us, but also adding the darkness from within us into a body that is no longer living. Again, this is why this is not a kids conversation, but again, I don't consider like, teenagers kids like that. That's, that's YouTube, that's not me. But basically, not only is it like kind of sketchy, um it's also not effective in the long term, most of the time, because karma and darkness. Are you laughing at anything specific, or
It's just something random, not related to this.
okay? No worries. If you have anything to say, you
Yeah.
could interrupt me at any time.
Okay.
Um, Karma and the energy, the darkness that we have to work through. We could take a break. We could, objects that we have. One of the reasons I started wearing jewelry in the first place is because it fills with my energy throughout the day, and then I put it on top of a big chunk of selenite, and then it purifies the energy, so I have less work to do. So it's not impossible to use aids like that, but again, a dead animal is not going to be purifying your energy for you. It's a temporary storage, so you can feel better for a while, get yourself together, and eventually, one way or another, whether it goes directly back to you or in a roundabout way, to someone else in your energy field, which then goes back to you, it will come back. But here's what I'm going to say, which is kind of interesting, is that if this is true, and I'm saying it, these people doing the sacrifice might actually know that as well. Again, I could be completely wrong, but they're the experts in their particular, or they may be more skilled in that field than I am. I've never sacrificed anything, and the most I've done is the egg cleanse. That's like the vegetarian way of doing things. You could look up the egg cleanse, and it's basically like you put your darkness into an egg, and then you salt the egg to purify it, and it's a way that has been suggested to me to remove darkness, and I didn't find it super effective. I actually found it better, and this is actually important for the discussion, to put salt water under my bed. When I woke up, there was this pattern on it of like a demon and like something fighting it. It was actually pretty neat. It was scary at the time too, because you're freaking looking at like these orange demon horns that weren't there when you put the salt and the water in there. But again, even that, like, you show people that picture and they're like, oh my God, like you need to go to the church. It's like, yeah, well, the church has its own, darkness in it too, depending on where you go. As we know from all the litigation that's happened, it's not the holiest place in the world all the time. There are plenty of like people that go there for the right reasons, but there are plenty of people that have used the church for the wrong reasons too. So when you talk about darkness, like everybody wants to say like, well, the bar is bad, the church is good, spiritualism is good, as long as you don't go too like witchy or too dark, or sacrifice is one of those things where people are like, okay, like, some people are like, okay, well, you can use skulls as long as you found them along the road. But at the end of the day, getting back to the darkness, if you're putting it into a dead animal, depending on how you dispose of it and purify it and how they deal with the energy, it's probably going to be coming right back to you. And because you're a starseed, you also, and we've talked about this before, like, origins and stuff like that, you felt it.
Yeah.
I validated it, whether that's worth any salt or not is fine. But as a starseed, you also have energy that you need to deal with. And it seems overwhelming oftentimes. Even the best star seeds that seem to have it together. Like last night, there was this woman that I follow, probably about my age, that has a big following, that's like, guiding, a whole bunch of people through the ascension process, was like, yeah, I'm overwhelmed tonight. Talk to me, just telling the people in her following, just to tell them how they're feeling, how the energies are going. And I thought, well, that was really nice, because like you get a lot of spiritualists that think they have to have it all together. They always have the answers. But those are the people that are basically, like you said, just not, oftentimes, not always. Some of them actually do like clean their house constantly and do their job at the same time and never complain. But I'm definitely not one of those people. I don't put it aside. There are some people who are more professional than others. Comparing me to my first video, obviously I'm more professional at this moment. But getting back to the animal sacrifice, at the end of the day, if you do it, you can just record your experiences and it'll be fine. But getting back to the caveat is they're going to want to, depending on what organizations they're involved in, and there's a lot of dark organizations, especially that operate through Instagram. First of all, your number one sign that someone's not legitimate is that they message you first saying, this is the reading that I got. I want to do a reading. When they push the reading, basically, if you're out there searching for people to give readings for, it's less legitimate than if you just kind of open shop and offer it and gather a following otherwise. There are a lot of spiritualists out there that say, I don't message first. And that's actually a sign that, you're willing to just wait for people to come to you as opposed to trying to dazzle them with their abilities, because that's actually kind of rude. In spirituality, you wonder why, like, I often keep my readings to myself until I'm absolutely sure you want them, is because number one, I have the experience, especially as someone who sees the future. A lot of people don't want to know, even when they say they want to know. And number two, a lot of people, when they don't say whether they want to know or not, when you just volunteer information, they find it very rude, because you're basically, in our minds, it's just we're using our skills, our sensory abilities, whether it's claircognizance, clairaudience, whatever, we're using our abilities and sensing what's around us, but in them we've invaded their privacy. And we can do that without them knowing, but when we tell them, then they'll get mad at us. So you could say something along the lines of like, well, I'm sensing something. Is it okay to, to say what spirit has guided me to say? You just got to be cautious. So these people that just go around like trying to dazzle people and send messages, you sound, are you not liking this explanation? Or
No, it's good. It's good.
okay. So all right, we'll review it afterwards. I mean, but the point is that sending the message first is actually not usually a good thing, depending on how you do it. But getting back to the dark organizations, which might catch your interest more, presumably, what they do after they remove the darkness, what a decent amount of them do, is they have connections to the organizations or a part of the organizations that can increase your following on Instagram, on YouTube, on whichever it is. And if they do that, they boost your following afterwards. So they take away the darkness temporarily. They boost your following on whatever sites they want to impress you on. All of a sudden, through a bunch of circumstances that they're controlling at the moment, you're feeling wonderful. You start to trust them more. Like, look at all the good things that happened. They didn't even tell me I was going to get a bigger following on Instagram. And then they hit you with like, okay, we want you to join like IFA or whatever. Like they usually have like these acronyms for these African cults that you want to join or whatever they are. Or you get the big one, which, the dark forces starts with I. I'm not going to say it here. But they try to rope you in to an organization, say you can succeed, you can have your own business, and all of that is true. It's just you get deeper and deeper into depending on this organization for your success. And this is important because yes, it starts with a reading, but oftentimes it doesn't end with one. And you have to know the steps of indoctrinating people to know when you want to pull out. So I wasn't going to argue with you when you said like, oh, these people want to do a reading for you. What did I say? I said, just use PayPal and, it should be, let me know what happens and it should be fine for most part. Like it's not going to hurt necessarily, but number one, you'll have to deal with this stuff anyway. It'll be a learning experience. And at the end of the day, you just have to prevent like all the other nonsense from happening because everybody wants more than they let on oftentimes. So that's my explanation for that. You can believe it, you cannot believe it. But from my experience of having, people try to recruit me from all these different places, it's usually correlated with a lot of control mechanisms that make you feel miserable in order for them to lift you out of it, which is a tactic that we use in politics. It's a tactics that we use in a lot of things. And, everybody just likes to be the hero. And it's easy if you could just provide the circumstances for you to swoop in and save the day. So, and again, like there's everybody who says like, well, this is a scam. This is not a scam. Like I've been wrong before. I'm sure you've been wrong before. everybody has trouble with this, but just as we gain experience, we get better at it.
Okay. Yeah, I think I get the gist of that. Uh, yeah, because I was going to say when you said about sacrifices or what we were saying about it. I mean, I don't know if it was really that, but I did do something. I've done one thing they said to do anyways, which was take a like a bath of salt water.
That doesn't.
But they yeah, no, but they said to also like say good things or like to do with when they say ancestors. I mean, I did that thing at the end, but like in terms of what you say about energy leaving or coming back, let's maybe think about that now because I'm not sure exactly how like what difference that would have made. If you see what I'm saying? Because like I don't know, that's the thing.
Saltwater baths, there's really no downside to them as far as I know. And especially if you actually have a bath that works. My bath like leaks way too much. I end up wasting way too much water. I was actually able to successfully remove a dark attachment that was really bothering me with a salt bath. And I ended up getting the salt bath mixture for free, which was wonderful. So that's actually a good technique. There's really no downside to that. So anyway, the person who recommended that, I would consider more, at least more valid in that situation than other people who offer sacrifice right off the bat.
Okay. But my next question is, what exactly do they mean when they say ancestors? Like, what does that mean in particular? Like, it doesn't mean a relation. Like, it means like is it something, I know it's something spiritual, but what does that mean exactly? Like, to sacrifice them to get rid of a spell? Like, what?
Well, pronouns matter here. And what I mean by did they say your ancestors, their ancestors,
Well,
our
they just
ancestors?
said the word ancestors. They were like, oh, I think one of the sacrifices they said has was it Ebo as in EBO sacrifice had to be done or something. Just they said to break a spell or something. I don't know. Uh,
Yeah, that
but
sounds like
yeah,
Nigeria. And again, I'm not saying it to diss Nigeria. I have a few friends from Nigeria who kind of, give me a bit of the 411 and the different scams going on. Um, I'm sure there might be some people that do spiritual readings from Nigeria that are not trying to scam you, but there's a lot of scams going down there, and it's actually by design. The United States and China, first the
yeah.
United
So
States and then China, we all basically used Nigeria as a place to organize our scams, our crimes, and stuff like that, and to, of course, steal all their stuff for cheap, all the resources. So we basically made it that way. You would see on the news like, and Britain is, I guess, a part of that cabal. But the point is that like we could have helped them grow into a more developed country, but we actually enjoyed the fact, at least the people that rule us enjoyed the fact that they were in a delicate situation and we kept them there and we use it to our benefit. And now it's not really the United States is doing, it's more China. And whether China treats them better is, we all hope that in colonization that these people eventually find independence for themselves and they kind of throw off the yoke of the people that, you know, are oppressing them. But right now, it's basically like I said, the people in Nigeria are frustrated at the corruption, a lot of them, but at the same time, like I'm frustrated at the governments that are basically treating them like a colonial state. But anyway, we got a little off track there. So Igbo sacrifice, that's an African thing. That's definitely related. But
right.
sorry, what was the question regarding that? I apologize
Well,
for
it
being.
was so the question was what it meant to to break the spell by sacrificing ancestors. Is what they said. Well, they said that was part of it. Like I don't know what like because they were like, oh, because one of them said about ways to try and communicate with them or something at something or something like I don't know what it's called, but like I don't know. It's just interesting what they. I can't really imagine what they mean exactly by that and how that stop because it's a if it's a they're saying if it's a bad spirit then it's is it just because it's replacing it with the good energy or is that not I don't know if that makes any sense. um
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to answer that in a short fashion. As to whether we have bad ancestors, I met a spiritual person about a decade ago that actually had multiple personalities in his, or multiple spirits in his body, and he actually locked one away because it was actually bringing him to do bad things. Um, so, and this person had been his father in a past life too. So he had an idea. It was just a very mixed up situation that he had to deal with. But at the end of the day, like even in that weird, messed up situation with ancestors and spirits around you, like I still tend to think that we are meant to face our situations as opposed to putting them in a box and hiding them away. Granted, if you need to do that for a time, that's fine. I've done that. Many people have done that. But eventually, you're going to have to open the box and you're going to have to look at it. You're going to have to figure out what to do with the energy. Um, and in terms of sacrificing your ancestors, if I'm saying it correctly, like having your ancestors sacrifice for you is another way of saying it. Like that sounds a little bit better, but sacrificing your ancestors almost sounds like what I was describing, which is taking your karma, which a lot of it is ancestral. You're 17 years old, as far as I know. You haven't built up all this negative karma by like screwing with people. I highly doubt that you're just running around like just doing bad things to people.
No.
Yeah. So me too. Like I had a lot of darkness to deal with. And some people, may think like, oh, well, he deserves it. It's like, well, actually, like if you go back to the signing of the Starseed contract, we basically decided how much shit we wanted to deal with in this particular lifetime. You chose what you chose. I chose what I choose. Maybe we aim too high, maybe we aim too low, but at the end of the day, we chose it and we have to meet ourselves right there. So when we talk about sacrificing our ancestors, we are dealing with ancestral karma. In addition to any of the karma of the people around us in our communities, we are the people that are supposed to break the chains of karma and ascend to the fifth dimension. That's basically the goal of every starseed. Like it's like why we're here. We're supposed to elevate humanity by raising our vibration, by purifying our bodies, by healing ourselves and helping to heal others along the way. And so when we talk about sacrificing our ancestors, it's almost like saying you're throwing some of that energy under the bus so that you could get a boost a little faster than you want to. So you don't have to deal with it directly. You're just like, well, this is a little bit of pesky darkness there. I'm just gonna kind of save that for later. So again, it kind of goes with what I said initially. I could be understanding them wrong, but sacrificing our ancestors sounds a little strange. And while I have encountered situations where people have some pretty messed up ancestry, I still lean towards, eventually either dealing with it themselves or dealing with that with, trained spiritualists who can help them guide them through it. I believe that we're given things that we can deal with ourselves. And yes, if you want to ask me a question, if you want to ask Danielle Lipton a question, the spiritualist I recommended, if you want to ask anybody a question, that's fine. We're all learning, we're all growing. But at the end of the day, and that's what I like Danielle, is because she teaches people better than myself, by the way. She teaches people what their gifts are, or she shows them or guides them towards them, and how to use them, or at least the medium. She's a medium. The spirits that talk through her, the beings that talk through her, will guide them towards their own abilities and how they can deal with their darkness, how they can learn to grow, and how they can help people. So her system, it didn't help me as much as I wanted it to, but it helped. And I've learned a lot from her. Everybody has a unique mission, and mine is very unique. Like every time somebody teaches me something, I end up having to reinvent it like for myself. It's like it's almost like I can't just do things by route. Like you teach me Reiki, I'm gonna find a way to do Reiki my own way. You teach me like, so everybody's just like, oh, you should learn this, you should learn that. It's just like I'm end up gonna have to put together my own system because for whatever reason my energy is very unique. And well, there's a good thing about it is I have some abilities that I haven't heard anybody else has. I can supplement myself and actually send that energy towards other people. I've done it before and it does help. And it's kind of interesting manipulating energy like that. There are other spiritualists that do something similar, but when I was exploring my masculine energy, that was the first surprise that I got. Because in our first video, I believe we talked about masculine and feminine energy. And it basically has to do with whether you're sending energy or you're receiving it. Like most empath abilities are receptive. So anyway, lots to learn, lots to grow with. That's my opinion on darkness. And again, if you do those readings, just make sure you don't go too far. I mean, now we have it on video, so if you end up with 20,000 followers on Instagram later, I'll be like, okay, like, might be something going on there. But again, like there are also people who go that route and they're not horrible people. I have friends who most likely get involved, again, web friends, I haven't met them, with that kind of stuff. And some of them have invited me, and it's, like I'm not looking for success by relying on other people to an extent where they take away my sovereignty. And anybody who's going to be ordering me around, again, well, now I have a job, they're going to be telling me what to do, but it's just in this specific realm. They're not telling me what to do spiritually. If they told me that I needed to do some medical procedure that I didn't want, I'd be gone, or I'd be fighting it. At the end of the day, we have to draw a bottom line for ourselves. How much are we willing to give our sovereignty to someone else? And that's why I'm very careful when I take on other people's energy, because I want you to be able to do either what I can do or your own ability based version of it, because there are a lot of different ways to get to the same point. You don't have to have the same abilities to actually get to the same conclusion. I have my psychologist, actually, he draws the same conclusions I do by reading really boring like data studies, and like all these, like it takes all this data and compiles it and finds the same thing that I get from looking at TikTok. And it's like, it takes me like, well, okay, so TikTok is addicting. You keep swiping. But for me, it's
Yeah.
more enjoyable because I use my truth sensor and I use my other abilities to sense the truth and the validity in what's going on. And I match it against all the other things in my database. And that's what I do. But he does the professional, like doctor route, and he ends up with a lot of the same information that I do. But at the same time, they're both valid. So if I need a scientific study, I go to him. I don't search for it. I just say, can you send me that? And they'll share it with people that want scientific studies. But if you're talking to a young person, sometimes a TikTok video is all they need. So it really just depends on who you're talking to.
Okay. No, I think that was a good explanation. Because yeah, when you said about star seeds are meant to go to the fifth dimension, or that, it made me think, well, when they were like, oh, the curse is trying to delay you from achieving your destiny, I took that in a different way, meaning like what I want to be as a person. I don't know if what they meant by that when they say destiny, or do they mean what I'm supposed to do? Like, I mean,
Usually they're connected. As we go further in this great awakening, like whether it's an occupation or what you do outside of it, like they're going to start merging as time goes by. At least that seems to be what happens. There have been very nice spiritualists that I've met. Actually, this guy is very interesting. He talks with ascended masters, very talented, very skilled, very good healer, and he worked at a bank. He's like an 80-year-old guy, and is in good shape. And he worked at a bank for probably a decade, as far as I know, before I met him. And so yes, there is a separation between what we do as a job sometimes and what we do in our personal life. But it also just opens up to who is in our energy field. Like, who are the people that we're going to be talking to? If you're working at a bank, you have to be. So, depending on what your job is, it really just makes who you're surrounded with different. You can't change the fact that you're spiritual. I mean, you can halt it, but at this point, like, it's a part of you, as far as I know, and for most of us who identify as starseeds. And awakening humanity means that we have to meet people at their level. We have to meet people where they are, whether they're in the bank, whether they're in modeling, or wherever you want to work. And there's a lot of unique things and skills that happen when you get involved with people, where they are. I spent a lot of time in content creation, so I developed the ability to talk to their Facebook photos and actually find out a lot of information from them. So, it would be nice to meet people in person, but during lockdowns, it was just me and my Facebook account. So, it was, and, the other social media sites. So, you don't have to have a spiritual job specifically, and that was never my intent in the first place.
it's I guess getting back to the filtering darkness and tying that all up is that your future and your spiritual future are one and the same. Like you are a spiritual being, we are spiritual beings, and the people that deny this end up having a lot of trouble, especially at this stage. Is that as we grow, they're connected. So when you're saying you're wondering if they were saying that it was your career or if it was something in your life that you wanted, some aspiration, is it's all connected. I mean, the most spiritually healed people end up getting what they want anyway. Manifestation is real. So, it's definitely a connected topic. So whether it was job related or some other topic, like, it's still part of the same whole. So I guess that's my answer. We don't have to like go out proselytizing. We don't have to like you be like the Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't know if we have those. You have those in Britain, but like they're people that just spread their religion everywhere, and they even the people that don't want to hear it. You basically just have to be yourself and share your experiences and help the world evolve. Um, so in terms of whether it affects your career or not, I guess it's both, no matter what, whether it's a spiritual answer or a career related answer. Maybe he meant the career. That's usually what the scammers want you to think. Like they want you to be very career minded, very success minded. So they might have meant that, and that also ties into that scam I was talking about. When they start talking about you need success in your career, there are some people that do it the right way, as far as I know, and start healing your relationship with money and finances and stuff like that. There are people that do that, but not often do you find people that are spiritual and trying to help you with like money matters directly. Um, anyway, good talking to you. Take care. Hopefully that helped. I'll talk to you later. Bye.